The morning of January 28, 2025, began like any other in the northern suburbs of Melbourne. The air in Preston was still, and the usual hum of High Street provided a deceptive sense of normalcy. But for one man, the silence was about to be shattered by the final chapter of a decade-long pursuit. As Sam Abdulrahim stepped out of the Quest Hotel just after 10:00 a.m., he wasn't just a guest checking out. He was a man walking into a meticulously laid trap. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to know you are the most sought-after person in a city of 5 million? For Sam, that wasn't a question, it was a daily reality. The transition from a quiet morning to a scene of intense investigation happened in a matter of seconds. As Sam approached his vehicle, accompanied by his partner, the calm was pierced by a sudden and decisive intervention. Multiple individuals, acting with a level of coordination that suggested long-term surveillance, initiated a fatal act. The precision was surgical. While his partner miraculously escaped physical harm, the primary target was silenced instantly. In the wake of the event, the quiet suburb was transformed into a high-intensity crime scene, with forensic teams cordoning off the area and witnesses left in a state of profound shock. This wasn't a random act of misconduct. It was a professional signature. The escape that followed was equally calculated. Within minutes, a white Porsche SUV was seen navigating the northern streets with urgent intent. Roughly 30 minutes later, that same vehicle was found incinerated in Reservoir, a classic tactic used to eliminate forensic traces. The investigators soon discovered that the individuals involved had switched to a second getaway vehicle, a grey Ford Ranger, which was later found in a similar state in West Meadows. This two-stage disappearance revealed a level of sophistication that deeply concerned the homicide squad. They weren't just looking for local opportunists. They were hunting a team that understood the mechanics of modern evasion. The primary question haunting the detectives was simple, yet baffling. How did they know he was there? Sam had only been at the hotel for a single day. He had returned to Australia just 1 week prior and was scheduled to depart again within 48 hours. In the world of high-stakes survival, secrecy is the only currency that matters, and it appeared that someone had spent Sam's secrets to settle a very expensive debt. The investigation was no longer just about a tragedy in a parking lot. It was about uncovering the bridge between a secure hotel room and a waiting hit team. In the shadows of Melbourne's complex social structures, a name began to resonate with a frequency that suggested something more than human resilience. Sam Abdulrahim, often referred by a moniker that signaled his uncompromising nature, became a living study in the psychology of survival. For over a decade, he didn't just inhabit the fringes of the law, he seemed to dance on the edge of the impossible. To his adversaries, he was a frustrating enigma target that refused to remain down. To the authorities, he was a symbol of a volatile era where the rules of the game were being rewritten in real time. But what happens to a man's psyche when he begins to believe his own legend of invincibility? The foundation of this perceived immortality was laid during several high-intensity incidents that would have claimed the life of any ordinary individual. The most significant of these occurred in June 2022, during what should have been a somber moment of reflection. While participating in a funeral procession, Sam's luxury vehicle was intercepted in a brazen move that saw a volley of projectiles directed toward him. In a display of sheer determination that baffled first responders, Sam didn't wait for assistance. Despite sustaining severe internal injuries from 8 separate impacts, he managed to pilot his vehicle toward the Fawkner police station, seeking a sanctuary of law in a moment of lawlessness. It was a scene that felt scripted for a cinematic thriller, yet the reality was far more intense. Following this close encounter with a fatal act, the psychological warfare began. From his hospital bed, with a projectile still lodged within his kidney, Sam did not retreat into the safety of anonymity. Instead, he chose a path of public defiance. He utilized digital platforms to mock those who had attempted to end his journey, essentially daring the world to try again. This bravado served a dual purpose. It maintained his status within his social circle, but it also painted a larger, more vibrant target on his back. By refusing to acknowledge the gravity of the situation, he transformed a personal feud into a high-stakes challenge of reputations. This pattern of survival was not an isolated event. From a 2019 incident in Brunswick to multiple high-velocity exchanges outside his home in 2024, Sam's life was a continuous loop of narrow escapes. However, each time he walked away unscathed or recovered against the odds, the pressure within the underworld began to mount. The invincibility factor created a vacuum that could only be filled by an even more calculated and severe response. Investigators noted that with every failed attempt, the methods of his rivals became more sophisticated, leading inevitably to the professional and tragic precision witnessed on that quiet Tuesday in Preston. As the investigation progressed, detectives realized they were peeling back the layers of a conflict that spanned continents. This wasn't a mere neighborhood rivalry. It was a high-stakes chess match played between the suburbs of Melbourne and the distant corridors of the Middle East. At the center of this web sat a powerful figure whose influence remained potent despite his physical distance from Australian soil. Kazim Hamad, a formerly central figure in local illicit operations, had been deported in 2023, but his departure only served to transform his tactical approach. From afar, a staggering bounty allegedly reaching the seven-figure mark was placed on Sam's life. It was a price tag that turned every shadow in Melbourne into a potential threat. To understand why such a monumental effort was made to silence one man, investigators had to look back to a pivotal moment in 2016. This was the year a severe incident claimed the life of Kadir Oz, a key associate within the Hamad circle. While Sam consistently denied direct involvement, the whispers in the underworld and even certain judicial observations suggested he had played a logistical role in luring the individual to a fatal encounter involving another notorious figure, George Morogi. In this landscape, perceive betrayal as a debt that carries a heavy, long-term interest rate. The loss of a comrade wasn't viewed as just an unfortunate event. It was a grievance that the Hamad family intended to settle, regardless of how many years had passed. The digital age provided a chilling window into the intensity of this animosity. Shortly after the tragedy in Preston, a recording surfaced that felt like a glimpse into a modern-day tragedy. It was a video of a digital call between Sam and Kazim, recorded in the wake of the failed 2022 intervention. In the footage, Sam's bravado is on full display. He laughs, mocking the failed attempts and boasting that even after sustaining 8 impacts, he was still standing. Kazim's response was composed but heavy, with an unspoken finality, "You're lucky, brother." It was a conversation between two men who both understood that luck is a finite resource. While Sam viewed his survival as proof of his strength, his adversaries viewed it as a sign that they simply needed to be more thorough. This global vendetta highlights a terrifying evolution in criminal psychology. Geography no longer provides a barrier to retribution. With the click of a button, or a coded message sent from thousands of miles away, resources could be mobilized in a Melbourne parking lot. The Homicide squad wasn't just looking for the individuals who were present at the Quest Hotel. They were tracing a digital and financial trail that led back to a central command far beyond their immediate reach. It was a stark reminder that in this world some grudges are so deep they survive borders, deportations, and the passage of time. The most chilling aspect of the investigation wasn't the act itself, but the silence that preceded it. For months, Sam had effectively become a phantom, navigating the world with a heightened sense of paranoia that only the hunted can truly understand. Following a severe incident in May 2024, where a team targeted his residence under the cover of night, he had vanished from the public eye. He sought refuge overseas, moving between locations to reset his digital and physical footprint. When he finally returned to Australian soil, just 1 week before the Preston tragedy, he did so with the caution of a man who knew his time was a borrowed commodity. He was a nomad in his own city, frequently changing his accommodations, and ensuring that his movements were never predictable. So how did a team of attackers find a man who was working so hard to remain invisible? Detective Inspector Dean Thomas and the Homicide squad quickly focused on a disturbing mathematical reality. Sam had arrived at the Quest Hotel in Preston only 24 hours before the fatal act occurred. Furthermore, he was scheduled to depart the country again just 2 days later. The window of opportunity for his adversaries was incredibly narrower, mere 48-hour gap in a schedule that was kept strictly confidential. This wasn't the result of a lucky sighting or a random encounter. To the investigators, the precision of the timing pointed toward a singular, haunting conclusion: the information had come from the inside. The investigation shifted from the streets to the inner sanctum of Sam's trusted associates. In the world of high-level criminal investigations, this is often referred to as the Judas Element. The theory posits that the hit team didn't need to hunt Sam because someone he trusted had simply handed them the map. Only a select few individuals within Sam's inner circle were aware of his return to Australia, his choice of hotel, and his impending departure. Task Force investigators began the painstaking process of analyzing encrypted communications and interviewing those closest to the deceased. They were looking for a breach of loyalty, a moment where a friend or associate might have been coerced, bribed, or perhaps saw an opportunity to settle their own grievances by providing the hit team with the precise coordinates of Sam's final stay. The psychological weight of this possibility adds a layer of heart-wrenching complexity to the narrative. For a man who had survived 8 shots and multiple ambushes through sheer tenacity, the ultimate vulnerability wasn't a lack of armor, but a misplaced trust. The investigators believed that the execution was only made possible because the wall Sam had built around himself had a crack in it. As the homicide squad canvasses for forensic evidence, they are simultaneously navigating a web of shifting loyalties, where the person who offered a handshake on Monday may have been the one who signaled the attackers on Tuesday. The hunt for the killers is now intrinsically linked to the hunt for the informant, who turned a secure hotel into a fatal trap. The silence that followed the events in Preston was brief, quickly replaced by the digital roar of a community in shock and a law enforcement apparatus in high gear. In the immediate aftermath, the focus shifted from the crime scene to the grieving family and the volatile landscape of the city's social circles. Sam's sister, Timur, utilized social media to process the unfathomable loss, her words carrying the heavy weight of both sorrow and a demand for a final accounting. Similarly, Jessica Power, an individual who had shared a significant chapter of Sam's life, expressed her devastation through a heartfelt tribute. She reflected on a man who, despite his complex affiliations, remained a devoted family figure and a supportive presence in her life. Her words humanized a figure often viewed only through the lens of a police report, reminding the public that behind every headline is a family now navigating a world without a father, a son, or a brother. While the family mourned, the Victoria Police were bracing for the potential of further instability. Detective Inspector Dean Thomas, supported by the specialized resources of Task Force Luna, made it clear that the pursuit of truth would be relentless. The authorities aren't just looking for the perpetrators of this specific act. They are monitoring the entire ecosystem of the underworld to prevent a cycle of retaliation. There is a palpable tension in the air, a fear that this final act in Preston might serve as a catalyst for more conflict. To mitigate this, police have maintained a highly visible presence in the northern suburbs, sending a clear signal that the city's safety remains the paramount concern. The investigation is now a race against time to identify the killers before the code of the streets attempts to settle the matter first. Ultimately, the life and final moments of Sam Abdul Rahim serve as a sobering reflection of a world where survival is a daily negotiation. His story is one of high-stakes defiance, where the thrill of evading the inevitable eventually met the cold reality of a meticulously planned trap. For some, his departure marks the closing of a dark chapter in Melbourne's history. For others, it is a tragic reminder of how difficult it is to escape a path once it has been chosen. The investigation continues to probe the depths of the inner circle theory, looking for that one piece of forensic or digital evidence that will link the hit team to their local source. As the legal process begins its slow and methodical grind, the memory of that quiet Tuesday in Preston remains etched in the collective consciousness of the city. It was a day when a decade-long saga of survival finally reached its conclusion, leaving behind a trail of questions and a family seeking peace. The hunt for justice is far from over, but for now, the man who was once known for his refusal to fall has finally found a stillness that no amount of bravado could prevent. The ripple effect of this tragedy will likely be felt for years, serving as a cautionary narrative about the true cost of a life lived on the edge.